uses a discriminatory approach whereby the chief opposition whip, unlike his or her colleague on the government side, would be elected by members of the opposition, which would be discriminatory and wrong. Worse still, whereas the bill is being touted as a tool for increasing efficiency in the opposition, it proposes that the new role of the chief of opposition whip would be to ensure the attendance, participation in proceedings and voting in parliament by all members of opposition parties in parliament, contrary to the prevailing situation where each opposition party has its own whip. Effectively, that means that the logical reasoning would be that there should be one whip for all opposition parties, yet the ruling party will have its own whip, which is not shared with any other party. Number 3, the proposed law undermines the autonomy of opposition political parties, thereby weakening constitutional checks and balances. The bill disregards Uganda's constitutional framework, which envisages a multi-party system where each political party retains the authority to manage its affairs. It specifically infringes on the right of the main opposition party to self-regulate and appoint its leadership in parliament. Yet, in nascent democracies like Uganda, each political party must retain the autonomy to select leaders who best represent its ideals and policy positions. By proposing provisions that allow multiple opposition parties to participate in the selection and removal of the law, the bill unconstitutionally attempts to circumvent the role and influence of the largest opposition party and usurp the will of the citizens who voted for it ahead of any other opposition party. And I think this point has been made that under a multi-party dispensation, the Westminster system, the presumption is that there is a party in government and there is a party in opposition. The main party in opposition, therefore, effectively forms government in that sense. And that is why there is even a shadow cabinet and all those. This bill seeks to take away that provision. This would undermine the largest opposition party's ability to assert its role as a primary check on government authority within parliament, as well as its ability to hold parliamentary and other government officials accountable. It would also compromise the law's role by enabling the ruling party to influence decisions through members who may be more sympathetic to the ruling party's interests. Secondly, there is a likelihood that opposition MPs may be bribed or compromised or unduly influenced by government to vote a law agreeable to the ruling party. We all are in Uganda. We are not from Mars, Honorable Chair, and we know what has been happening in this country. There have been several reports from MPs being compromised to pass controversial laws and proposals by the ruling party. We are concerned that even this time round, the ruling party may seek to compromise opposition MPs to vote certain candidates for LOP, whom the ruling party finds agreeable, which shouldn't be the case under a multi-party system. Honorable members, I invite you to consider Yala elections, for example, and you see it is strange that the largest opposition parties for long have not had a chance to send representatives to Yala. You will recall that in 2016, the chairman of NRM, General Museveni, publicly said that there is good DP and bad DP in an attempt to influence the voting of members of parliament in that Yala election. And indeed, those who are considered good DP found themselves able to sail through under that arrangement. Not all MPs considered opposition actually oppose the government. That's also another point. It is misleading to suggest that members of parliament who did not come to parliament on the ticket of the ruling party are actually in opposition. In the case of NUP, for example, honorable members, in the case of NUP, consider the case of Honorable Twa Kagabo, Honorable Jimmy Rwanga, and others. Although these members came to parliament under the NUP ticket, they have been categorical, stating publicly that their current allegiance is to the NRM, to a point of attending NRM caucus meetings. Now, members, are these the people who would be expected to elect the leader of the opposition in parliament? Would these kinds of people be expected to objectively refrain from moving countless motions to remove the LOP on frivolous grounds? People who have already indicated, although they are seemingly on opposition, but their allegiance and interests are elsewhere. In this regard, therefore, Honorable Lumu seeks to hand over the opposition to the NRM or any other ruling party using this absurd proposal. Worse still, it would be absurd in the present context to assume that every political party that is not in power is actually in the opposition. What do you make of the Democratic Party, for example, or a section thereof, which currently has a cooperation agreement with the NRM? For the UPC, which General Museveni recently said, are very good allies to the NRM. Should a political party in cooperation with the ruling party participate in electing the leader of the opposition, whose cardinal role is to keep that same government in check? It will defeat basic logic. We also invite this committee to reflect on the reality that political parties in the opposition are not homogeneous. Although we are all branded opposition, currently we have different distinct ideologies, policies, and approaches to different governance issues. You cannot suggest that opposition parties are homogeneous, therefore. Even though they may operate within the same political system, each opposition party represents a unique set of values and priorities. This diversity must be guarded when deciding the opposition leadership in parliament. Failure to do so would impose undue influence on the internal decision-making processes of the main opposition party, thereby hampering the multi-party system that the Constitution was deliberately designed to protect. Inadequate consultation, the manner in which the bill is being fast-tracked through the parliamentary processes, to the extent that its mover felt compelled to smuggle into it additional clauses that were not part of it at the first reading and at the time when he obtained the certificate of financial implications, has militated against sufficient consultation of all stakeholders. This is a violation of the constitutional requirement for participatory democracy in lawmaking, which renders the bill illegitimate and unconstitutional. Clearly, the leadership of Parliament, in our view, is giving this bill priority, despite the evident lack of preparation on the part of its mover, which raises disturbing questions about the true motives behind its presentation. Rejection of the bill by all major opposition parties. Mr. Chairman and members, honorable members, besides NUP, all other opposition parties that have appeared before this committee, including FDC, UPC, and ANT, have rejected this bill. And in fact, if you follow media reports, even those parties which are allowed to be consulted on this matter, all rejected this law. This is a resounding vote of no confidence in the bill by the person by those who would have been the biggest beneficiaries and main stakeholders, which strips the bill of legitimacy. I mean, if this bill was meant to help the current opposition, and the entire current opposition is saying no to this bill, the question this committee should ask itself, whose interests is Honorable Lumu trying to push by insisting on such a law? The Administration of Parliament Act already outlined procedures for the selection of the law. Any amendment to this process must align with existing legislative frameworks and respect the Constitution and the Act's intent to empower the leading opposition party in its oversight role, and intent that this bill terribly contradicts. Under number two, another broad reason, the timing and context of the amendment indicates bad faith. It is public knowledge, Honorable Chair and members, that the leadership of Parliament, the current leadership of Parliament, has engaged in a pattern of hostility and antagonism against the current LOP by creating and sustaining an environment that sidelines and marginalizes him in key parliamentary processes and decisions. And we give examples where the National Executive Committee designated Honorable Joel Senyonyi as law, and that by that designation he particularly became a member of the Parliamentary Commission. But we understand that Right Honorable Senyonyi has not been invited or allowed to attend any Parliamentary Commission meeting at the Parliament of Uganda ever since he was designated LOP. Now, this meeting by dint of Section 18(1) of the Administration of Parliament Act occur at least once every 2 months. And from the time he became LOP, he has not been allowed to attend any. And so we ask ourselves about the timing. Why now? Why not before? Why we think that there is bad faith certainly, and the current LOP is being targeted through this law. Besides being denied his right to attend meetings of the Parliament's top administrative organ, the Parliamentary Commission, since his appointment as law, Right Honorable Senyonyi has also been denied the privilege of hiring trusted policy analysts and other key staff in his office, contrary to the practice that has been followed since the position was created in 2005. You all recall, honorable members again citing bad faith, that where Right Honorable Senyonyi strongly opposed and led other MPs in boycotting the sitting in Gulu. To get back at him, on August 29th, parliamentary sitting chaired by the Speaker granted Honorable Lumu leave to introduce the instant bill, seeking to clip the lock's wings in a manner that we are highlighting. This was despite the Speaker categorically stating that only matters exclusively related to northern Uganda would be discussed in Gulu. How was the introduction of this bill in any way related exclusively to northern Uganda? This committee must therefore not accompany the mover of this bill on a journey that was birthed and nursed with sinister intentions, bad faith, far from Article 79 of the Constitution, which enjoins Parliament to legislate for good governance. To further show the mover's ill intention, the bill proposes that a lock may be removed when he or she misbehaves. Now, members, who determines misbehavior? Who defines misbehavior? Where you say that if someone misbehaves, then the person should be removed. What is the standard of misbehavior? Who defines misbehavior? What standard will be followed? Well knowing that different individuals and parties may have different standards for misbehavior and indeed incompetence. We have some parties or individuals in this country who may see corruption as not bad behavior, but calling out corruption as bad behavior. So how do we determine what misbehavior amounts to? And we see that the mover is deliberate on putting such vague grounds so that it's very easy to remove the law whenever the members are influenced either way. In any case, like I highlighted earlier, under Article 108A of 4 of the Constitution, the Prime Minister who leads the government side can only lose his or her seat when he or she resigns or dies, or when the appointment is revoked by the President, or when he or she ceases to be a member of Parliament. There is no possibility of removing such a person by resolution of the ruling party MPs on vague grounds such as misbehavior. And we strongly feel it's unfair to say that for the Prime Minister who leads the government side, there's no provision even for such a person to be removed otherwise except those grounds which are specifically stated in the Constitution. How can anyone suggest that the LOP, on the other hand, should be removed over the grounds like that? Providing an avenue for arbitrary removal of the LOP would destabilize the opposition leadership in Parliament. The leader of the opposition would have to be constantly on tenterhooks, seeking to appease the MPs on both sides to avoid that instability and the possibility of removal. All this goes to show the bad faith in which the proposal is made. The timing of this proposal, considering that we have had different LOPs in the past, makes clear the true intentions. We are convinced that the bill is intended to tame the LOP and significantly weaken that office. It is a continuation of what happened when Honorable Zape Francis was illegally pushed out of the Parliamentary Commission when he started asking uncomfortable questions. The unconstitutional manner in which he was pushed out was confirmed by the Constitutional Court of this country. In addition to the foregoing, several other clauses of the bill raise more questions than answers. For example, where is the logic in the main opposition party nominating the LOP, but thereafter this LOP is not required to consult the party that nominated him or her, as clause 4 of the bill proposes? What does the provision that 2 commissioners should be from the same party imply regarding the nomination? Because the mover, under those additional clauses, says that there should be 2 commissioners from the opposition who should not come from the same party. And we're saying that that would be a recipe for disaster. Doesn't it deprive the main opposition party of a commission on the Parliamentary Commission, since the bill essentially means that all opposition parties are entitled to nominate candidates for the 2 commissioner positions that are being proposed? And that would create the yellow situation which we already alluded to above. Conducting elections among all opposition MPs and gaining broad approval for appointments will require substantial time, resources, and procedural challenges, thereby resulting in frequent deadlocks on key appointments. Similarly, the requirement for multi-party approval in the shadow cabinet's formation and committee leadership would slow down decision-making and create inefficiencies. This bureaucratic layering could hamper the opposition's ability to quickly respond to government policies. In conclusion, Mr. Chairman, Honorable Chair and members, the question that this committee should ask itself is, does this bill deepen multi-party democracy or not? That should be the overriding question. Does this bill, in the view of this committee, and in the view of the mover or any other sensible Ugandan, presume that by providing, as he proposes, that would deepen multi-party democracy or would seek to stick for it. We wish to emphasize, honorable members, that our strong opposition to this bill is not in any way premised on any intention to strengthen or maintain our stand in the opposition as NUP. In fact, Honorable Chair, the National Unity Platform works day and night to ensure that it takes power and builds a new Uganda. Our opposition to the bill is premised on our firm belief that even if NRM was to be the main opposition party, as we know it will be in opposition sometime, it should not be crippled in its operation by using very bad laws like the present proposal. We invite this committee to reject it in its entirety and ensure that we do not seek to further aid the breakdown of the rule of law. I thank you, Honorable Chair.